I don't believe that Tulsi Gabbard is a socialist because she believes that the means of production and distribution of goods and services should not be owned or controlled by the government. She appears to advocate for a mixed economic system, which is what the US currently is. I don't think we need to worry about Tulsi's economic policies because if they're bad, they probably won't pass the House and Senate. She appears to be a reasonable person and would work with those who oppose her if their views seem helpful to the country. I admire her authenticity and genuine concern for the welfare of those under her rule. I've noticed that in an attempt to keep Tulsi from gaining steam, she's probably being labeled as a socialist in order to get Trump voters to oppose her. This isn't fair because Trump himself is working in a mixed economy and shows government favoritism towards certain sectors in the economy. Trump himself is not a pure capitalist. He attempts to use labels on his opponents to discredit them, knowing the emotional connotations associated with these labels. This is rather hypocritical of him, since this is exactly what some Democrats do to him. Rather than discuss issues intelligently, American elections seem to appeal to labels rather than intelligent discussion. Rather, what's really happening is that the Republicans favor some sectors that the Democrats don't favor. So the argument is not between capitalism and socialism, but rather over which sectors of the economy the government's allowed to interfere with. The Republicans seem to favor legislation that allows some capitalist cronies to have unfair advantages, with the Democrats wanting other capitalist cronies to have unfair advantages. The solution seems to lie somewhere in the middle. But to frame the argument as a debate between capitalism and socialism is inaccurate. It's a debate over how the government should be involved in a mixed economy. From an evangelical perspective, the Bible seems to favor the mixed economy mode, and the nation of Israel, when it obeyed God, was not a capitalist economy, but rather a mixed economy with aspects of socialism. As a God-fearing leader, the government should be involved in legislation that helps the poor and the outcast, but do so in a manner that does not overly control the private sector. The happy medium would seem the biblical response. Conservative Republicans preach capitalism like it's a religion, like it will fix all our economic problems. I believe this is misguided and does not deal with the poor and helpless and does not lead to solutions. It doesn't sufficiently address those who take advantage of the poor who are in positions of power. During Christ's future millennial reign, with a perfect ruler in Christ, the Bible states that the land will enjoy her Sabbaths, insinuating that Christ's government will enforce a Sabbath year on production, Leviticus 26:34. Talk about government regulation. Leviticus 25 about the Sabbath year and the year of Jubilee definitely puts some regulation on how the economy should operate. Regulations were put on prices, interest rates, slaves were to be set free, loans forgiven, property sold, etc. Those who think pure capitalism is a biblical concept should consider this. There are even verses that encourage a bit of the welfare state, like Exodus 22:25. If you lend money to any of my people who are poor among you, you shall not be like a money lender to him. You shall not charge him interest. One of the first verses in the Bible about the poor is tied to the issue of debt. God did not want his people taking advantage of a poor man by charging excessive interest. Oh, wait, check that. They were to charge the poor no interest at all. Loaning the money was fine, but the lender was not to expect anything back other than the original loan amount. God stated this command again in Leviticus 25:36 and 37. That sounds like some regulations there to me. Leviticus 19:10, and you shall not glean your vineyard, nor shall you gather every grape of your vineyard. You shall leave them for the poor and the stranger. I'm the Lord your God. Here we see God providing a way for the poor to find food. He instructed the farmers to not pick every single grape from their grapevine. Instead, they were to leave a few behind so the poor could come in after the workers had left and glean from the leftovers. While I agree that the Bible does not support the idea of taking from the rich in order to make everybody have the same income level, and that it's the job of the church, not the government, to take care of the poor in their church, but this does not rule out the government having a role in taking care of the poor and helpless. The Bible does present the Jewish nation under God as the ideal form of government. The rules for this government are in Leviticus, throughout much of Exodus, Deuteronomy, and the Bible books written by Moses. In this ideal government, we have what I would call a mixed economy, a blend between socialism and capitalism. While the Bible does not condemn riches, it does condemn becoming rich at the expense of the poor, which is what's happening in much of the world today. In America, crony capitalists parade under the conservative evangelical banner of capitalism while they abuse the poor and become rich at their expense. This is behind much of the censorship we're experiencing now because the social media giants are not regulated and have created unfair monopolies that eliminate competition against those who do not adhere to the ideology of the elite, who may be the advertisers who support the social media giants. The Bible would seem to support regulating these social media giants, forcing them to treat others fairly in their business dealings, whether it means breaking them up or regulating them. Tulsi Gabbard wants to hold these crony capitalists accountable, and God and the Bible are with her. A crony capitalist is one who has a relationship with the government that protects them from their criminal activities in economics. These social media giants take advantage of a law that states they're private companies, and so they say they're immune from government regulation and can censor people just because they're private companies. But they have a monopoly. They're unregulated, and most social media giants cater to those who give them financial support, their advertisers, where freedom of speech is determined by the prejudices of the elite ruling class who pay the bills for those in the monopoly. Tulsi Gabbard wants to address this issue. So while you scream that she's a socialist, which she is not, because she may want to break up the tech giants, would you complain that if government regulated these social media giants, that it would restore some competition and freedoms? This is a type of socialism the Bible would support. In fact, I would say the reason Trump has not acted in this matter of censorship is because he claims to be a total capitalist. And he's afraid that if he regulates these social media giants, he will be rightly accused of carrying out socialist policies. He's so concerned about appearing like a traditional conservative Republican that he is more concerned with appearances than true justice. All I have to say is you conservatives out there need to think through deeply your beliefs and understand that the Bible does not support pure capitalism, but rather a mixed economy, a blend between capitalism and socialism. So just because some of Tulsi Gabbard's policies seem socialist, don't let this label blind you to the effectiveness and justice of some of her policies. For instance, Medicare for all. If implemented like my national health care plan, and I'll have a link for that underneath this video, look in the description, will save everyone money and also give everyone health care. Very good health care, high quality health care. We have to get away from divergent thinking, this idea that everything is black and white in areas where the Bible takes a more complex approach. Sometimes the best course is a blend between two extremes. That's the case in economics. We need to implement some socialist ideas and some capitalist ideas. And the way we decide which ideas to implement is to choose a route that maximizes freedom for all, but also takes care of the poor, marginalized, and helpless. We need to do all of this. You might say that is socialism, a violation of the free market economy to regulate the social media giants. It is anti-Bible. Well, perhaps it is a form of socialism, but it's not anti-Bible because we only regulate those who are taking advantage of the poor, not everybody. But even if it is a form of socialism, the Bible is not against a government interfering in an economy to help out poor people being abused by the rich. While Trump says he cares about those who are marginalized, he does nothing because he's catering to the rich and powerful who finance his campaigns, and these same rich and powerful who finance his campaigns take advantage of the poor to ensure they retain their monopoly. The Bible would condemn such behavior in Trump and the government and would expect the government to help out the poor in this matter. Conservative evangelicals must understand that while the Bible does not support pure socialism, described as using government to regulate and control all aspects of the economy, it does support limited socialism or a mixed economy, what we currently have in the US today. Actually, we've got a lot of crony capitalism too. Those who preach against socialism should also favor the elimination of the Federal Reserve, because that is extreme government regulation of the economy. If the Dems want to go after foreign government interference, they need to go after the Federal Reserve, which has been traditionally controlled by foreign interests outside the United States and causing much more damage to us than Russia. Tulsi Gabbard wants to audit the Federal Reserve. So let's get away from all these extreme arguments and deal with the real issues that should matter to us, okay? I mean, let's get away from labels, get away from distractions. What we want to do is we want to have health care for everybody, high quality health care. We want to build our infrastructure. We want to stop these regime change wars. Do you realize the United States government spends more money on their military than any other country than the combination of every other country in the world? In other words, if you took the money that every other country in the world is spending on their military, the United States spends more money on military than the combination of every other country in the world. That's ridiculous. All of that money, it could be used to help with health care, give some welfare assistance, which the Bible is not against. You say, but the Bible says that we should all, if we don't work, we don't eat. That's true. The Bible doesn't condone laziness, but not everybody who's poor is lazy. Some people really need our help. We've got homeless people out there that need our help, and the Bible wants us to help them. And the government, the ideal form of government does do that. I've got some verses here next to these videos, and I'm really proud of Tulsi because she's trying to find a path in the middle. She's trying to get the best aspects of the Republican Party, the best aspects of the Democratic Party, and negate the worst aspects of the Republican Party and the worst aspects of the Democrat Party. And she's trying to come up with something that's a blend between the two that will solve real problems and not be distracted by all these side issues that aren't going to make a lick of difference in our day-to-day living. Our day-to-day living is going to be affected by a possible nuclear war. Our day-to-day living is going to be affected by extravagant spending on the military to look up an excuse to have a war with Iran in order to placate Saudi Arabia because we got expensive arms manufacturing deals going on, and we want to continue to finance the. I mean, they're trying to distract you. They're saying she's a Russian agent. Who cares? What is that? I mean, it's not that we get more interference with our government from Israel than we do from Russia. Yeah, Benjamin Netanyahu can go right in front of the Congress and talk to them. Can you imagine the reaction we'd get if Vladimir Putin tried to do that? I mean, come on, folks.